Attention small business owners. Are you looking to amplify your reach and get your business in front of more customers? Deep Dive Games has an exciting opportunity for you. We're currently seeking local businesses in the St. Mary's, Georgia and Athens, Ohio areas to advertise on our 2 weekly podcasts. With 6 ad spaces available, you can showcase your brand to our engaged listeners and drive traffic to your business. Choose to pay per ad or save big by securing a year's worth of advertising in advance, locked in at the current rate. Ready to take the next step in promoting your business? Don't miss out. Contact us today at 912-439-3940 or shoot us an email at deepdivegamesllc@gmail.com. Let's work together to get the word out and grow your business. This episode is brought to you by CM Design and Gifts. CM Design and Gifts is Camden County's premier destination for everything including embroidery, laser engraving, direct-to-film printing, trophies, signs, banners, and more. Locally owned and operated by a Marine Corps veteran and his family, the store is conveniently located behind the Brown Bag Liquor Store in Kingsland, Georgia. No job is too small or too large for this thriving company, eager to support our military community and residents. Contact them at info@cmdgifts.com or visit their website at www.cmdgifts.com. This episode is brought to you by Game Over Video Games and More in Kingsland, Georgia. Are you looking for video games, classic consoles, or a fresh collection of new releases? Game Over Video Games and More in Kingsland, Georgia has it all. Whether you're a modern gamer or just want to relive your gaming nostalgia, they've got an impressive selection, great deals, and a friendly staff ready to help. Stop by and level up at Game Over Video Games and More. This episode is brought to you by Alien Treats. Ever wondered what it's like to have a milkshake that's out of this world? Welcome to Alien Treats, Kingsland's one-of-a-kind alien-themed ice cream and candy shop. Whether you're craving a cosmic milkshake, want to cruise our huge selection of freeze-dried candy, or just chill in their free arcade, they've got something for the whole family. Have a birthday party or event coming up? They have a new party room you can rent by the hour that's perfect to make every special occasion memorable. So, if you're looking for a fun, family-friendly experience that's anything but ordinary, beam yourselves over to Alien Treats in Kingsland, Georgia. Follow them on Facebook for the latest specials and events, and remember, at Alien Treats, every bite is an adventure. Alien Treats, where our treats are out of this world.
So, episode 2 of Beneath the Surface. I'm Nick the Red, and with me, as always, is Tyler P.
Glad to be back. It seems like it's been a pretty eventful week.
I would say so, yeah. We just got back from the Planetary Qualifier for Star Wars. If you guys watched our last episode, you know, at the end we were talking about how we were going to be talking about Star Wars today.
Yep.
And that is my jam. Like, I love Star Wars. I love the lore. I love everything about it, the characters. It's probably one of my favorite IPs that we have for gaming right now. And the card game is great. I love the card game. The owner and I play it all the time, and we've got a decent community. We just took a team down to St. Augustine to Gamer Core.
That was the name of the store. I was going to say, it's crazy. The game's been around for, what, just a little over a year now? A little under a year?
A little over a year.
Yeah, okay,
a
little over.
Last March.
Yes, and, you know, we're about to have Set 4, and we're already at a point where we have a team. Mm-hmm. They're hosting all these big events. You know, it really feels like Fantasy Flight's been focused on getting the competitive scene going from day one, and it's really reflected, you know, with these planetary qualifiers going off pretty much without a hitch for the most part. There's been a few little incidents, but they're not Fantasy Flight's thing. It's players being players.
We'll get into that in just a bit. The first thing I did want to do a shout out to was the stores, right? So Gamer Core, great store, loved it. Really nice location, very nice environment, very clean. We had no issues while we were there the whole time. Kind of reminded me of our home store, really. Very welcoming, very open, very clean.
Yeah, you know, those are the things that you look for in a game store.
Right, because I've been to game stores all up and down the coast. I've been to and fro across the country several times. Being a Navy brat.
Exactly,
and
same here.
Every town that, you know, we go to, I'd always try to find a close by game store, and I gotta tell you, like, a lot of them were just, it was almost like they were an afterthought, right?
Yeah.
And I gotta say, yeah, I work for Deep Dive. You work for Deep Dive. You got to talk good things about your home, right?
Well, of course. But
in my experience, this is probably one of the best stores that I've been to in a very long time.
I was going to say, because before I worked here, I was a customer.
Yeah, me too.
And I feel like most people don't want to work at a place that they don't at least feel somewhat favorably about, especially when it comes to retail, But, clean, welcoming, organized. Those are things that you don't see a lot at game stores. Or you see it at game stores. I don't want to make it sound like every other game store is
of course not. We're not trying to insult anybody else's home store. But we're trying to talk about our store, right? And my perfect example, right? I started coming here a little bit after the store opened up, right? Mm-hmm. I've had some experiences with some of the other game stores in the area, going down to Jacksonville, it being an hour drive away, almost an hour and 15-minute drive away from where I lived at the time. And it was definitely a bigger store, and it felt that way. You walk in, you felt like a number. You felt like, okay, you're a customer, but you never got to really get to know the people working there.
Yeah.
Unless you're a regular, right? And being an hour away, it was really hard to be a regular. But when it's like the only place you know of to go, that's what kind of happens. Well, tried some other stores, didn't really get a good feel for them. But when I came over here, and we were at the other location, right, down across the way.
Yep.
The first day I walked in, Segundo was working, and we love Segundo.
Miss him.
Shame.
Tragedy.
He's no longer with us. But he was super welcoming. He started up a conversation almost immediately. He was like, sure, the same spiel of, hi, welcome, what are you here for, what are you looking for, can I help you with anything, if you got any questions, your basic retail, greeting and whatnot. But, he started a conversation with me. We started talking about Magic and how I hadn't played Magic in so long, and I was just really kind of burned out. My experience at some of the other places I've been to really just kind of soured my attitude for the game, and I just wasn't sure. And just over the course of like the hour and a half, 2 hours that I was in the store and we were just talking, he convinced me to buy a commander deck. And I was like, you know what? Sure, I'm going to spend my money. This place seems really welcoming, a great atmosphere. And like I said, very clean, There's some stores I've been to, you walk in and you can definitely tell that people were there.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, because we all remember going to game stores like in the mall and stuff like that, and the energy compared to, your stores that you see now that have their own dedicated locations. Something that I think a lot of people, especially back in the day, you never thought that the game store was going to be big enough to get outside of the mall, get into its own established location,
Right.
But with that comes different challenges of when you're in a mall, it's hard to stay clean. You have foot traffic.
You have so much foot traffic
from the minute you open
out and
to
in
close.
And out.
Yep. But yeah, no, that has definitely been one of the advantages to being in a spot like this is, we can control the cleanliness a lot better without bending over backwards. And
another thing too is the environment, the welcoming environment. The staff, very helpful, always trying to give suggestions, help with deck building, teaching new games and things like that. I've been to stores where the guy behind the counter couldn't be bothered. That if you weren't there to spend money, he wasn't interested.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, because you're getting this lucky opportunity, honestly. Very few people get to work with their hobbies.
Sure. And I mean, this is just a second job for me.
Yeah.
This is your primary job.
Yes. And I will say this much. Even fewer people get to work with their hobby and make money off of it.
Right.
Key thing there. There are plenty of people who work with hobbies and it is strictly their passion project, and shout out to all of them. But, bills got to get paid. So to be in a lucky position where you can work with the stuff this intimately and still be able and just keep going with it. It's not a project that will eventually fizzle out because of a financial need. So that's why it always makes me sad to hear stories about people who are just they're not excited. And I get it. When you're surrounded by this stuff, it can be hard to maintain the same level of excitement. I think that's any job.
I was gonna say, when you're doing it every single day, and really being behind the counter, we're not always playing the games that we enjoy, but we're around it. We're in it,
Yeah.
and we can talk about it, and we can share that interest with other people, and we can encourage that kind of excitement in other people. And really, I think that's what I enjoy the most about working at a place like this, is the fact that I can ultimately just info dump on people about my hobbies, and it's not weird.
Yeah, I was about to say, I feel like we've had this discussion before in the past about how when you work at a store, you start to you transition almost into a mentorship role. You're not getting as much time to sit down and play yourself, but you're guiding other people. You get to watch new people pick up a game and get into it. And I've seen people who had never touched a Magic card in their entire life. They come in here, they're winning our Win-A-Box tournaments, CDH Tier 1 decks.
Not overnight, obviously.
Not overnight. Span of a couple of months, which in terms of Magic feels like overnight.
Sure.
But I think that's always the trade-off, stuff like Warhammer is a huge one. I've seen so many people come in here that they're like, I've heard about it from a YouTube video, I heard about it from playing the new Space Marine video game.
That's definitely one that I've heard a lot of.
And they come look at the minis, and they're overwhelmed at first, but you get to sit down and you talk with them, you get to talk about the lore, you get to talk about painting, building, actual playing, and you watch their eyes light up, and they walk out of here with, a combat patrol or some sort of starter box, and they're showing up for tournaments,
right,
and they're having a blast with the game, and they're just fully immersed, and it's cool to see that, because that's where I was when I first started,
Yeah, I mean, I had a friend of mine that I worked with here, actually, so it's only been a couple of years, because I played the old world, like, a long time ago. As we've all established in the last episode, I'm old.
I was going to say, I won't make the joke again, but...
Not going to tread that ground again.
It's been pretty heavily trodden at this point, I feel like.
But yeah, like, I used to play the old world back in the day when I was in college. Little game store called One-Eyed Jack's in Richmond, Virginia, if anybody cares. And I mean, I didn't really get heavily into it because there wasn't really a whole lot of people to play with. Come here some 20 years later, and I work with a guy who's super excited about Warhammer, but he hasn't played since like 5th edition or 6th edition. And at the time, we'd already gotten all the way up to like 8th. And then the rules for 9th were coming out. And so, I had a bunch of models that he had given me. I think I started with Space Wolves.
Yep, awesome army to start with.
Love the Space Wolves.
Especially in 8th going into 9th, they were in a pretty sweet spot.
Dude, friggin', 9-foot tall space Vikings with werewolf motifs.
It's just cool.
It's just cool.
It's just cool.
But yeah, so I started with the Space Wolves, and I came in, and one of our locals, James Holman.
Oh yeah.
Smart guy, knows his stuff. He took the time to teach me how to play with the 9th edition rules. And, we went back and forth, a couple of times, and then kind of got out of it for a little while, not going to lie. 10th edition was right around the corner. And recently, when I started working for NRMD over on the base, I had some training that I had to do that took me back to Norfolk. And while I was there, 10th edition had come out. And I was like, I want to get into 10th edition, and doing so, I was going to need to get a new army. So I ended up picking up Adeptus Mechanicus, because I figured, Robo Boys, right?
They're
I like
cool.
The robots,
It's one of the most recognizable images for Warhammer.
It is. Didn't really enjoy him that much, honestly.
It's a hard army to play.
It's a hard army to kind of to field and whatnot. Especially since I didn't have the codex. So when I got back, I think you were the one that suggested I look at Knights.
I think I was, because I know I was looking into Knights at the time. I think I had built a couple of armigers and was working on one of the galleons, and I just was not feeling it.
Yeah, I think I bought the Knight Dominus box from you.
That's it. That's what you picked up.
I bought the Knight Dominus box from you, put it together, and dude, I was hooked. Honestly,
it's one of those armies. You either love building a knight, or it is the biggest nightmare for you in the world.
So for me, it was originally I was thinking, well, if I go like Chaos Demons, then I can kind of field an army for both Age of Sigmar as well as for 40k, and that kind of fell through. Like I couldn't find the models available. I didn't really feel like ordering a bunch of stuff online. They didn't really have a codex at the time, so it was kind of like I was using old rules.
Yeah, and it never feels good in a new edition trying to play still.
My whole philosophy was, this is an expensive hobby. It is.
It is.
To get into.
It's gotten a lot cheaper over time.
It has gotten cheaper, but it at first, it's a bit of an investment.
It's daunting.
And I think that's a big thing about the game that kind of makes people a little leery about jumping in.
I was about to say, but you sit them down and you go, hey, holiday boxes, combat patrols, bang for your buck.
Right. There's
all day, every day.
Definitely options for getting a decent amount of units, a decent amount of models for your money's worth. And that's why I really liked leaning into the Knights, because I could get 400 points on the table for like $100. The point per dollar spent really kind of appealed to me.
Yeah, I mean, you were going from an army that has one of the highest dollar to point ratios in Adeptus Mechanicus, where I think it's about $1 per point
almost in
with
some
Mechanicus
cases.
To Knights, where, like you said, 400 points for a $120 some model. That's that's a great ratio.
Right. I ended up spending a lot of money on it because I ended up getting enough Questoruses to build every single variant of Questorus, including Canis Rex. And then I picked up 2 Dominuses so I could have the 2 different variants of the Dominuses.
Oh yeah, and you have the Lancer.
I have the Lancer. The only one I haven't got is the Atropos. And I haven't tried any of the resin upgrade kits for those boxes yet. But that being said, that's the kind of stories that I hear all the time about coming to this store, is that they come in, they're not really sure, and then they get a chance to talk to us, and they talk about their hobbies and what they're interested in. And a lot of times, they're comfortable enough to go ahead and get into it. And so that's honestly what I really appreciate about a place like this, is that we've got a decent sized space to play in. Play space is free. I know there are several stores that have to charge for their play space because they don't make enough, they don't make enough on the product, or they don't make enough on the peripherals, so they have to charge for play space. We don't have to do that.
No, yeah. I mean, you go into the inner cities especially, and that's where you'll see, because space is a commodity. You've been in a city, go to New York, go to LA, go somewhere that you're paying out the nose to get a space to have your business or even set up anything. They may charge you to use their tables, but we're blessed with the ability to have everything open for free for people to come hang out. You can bring your board games, just come play a casual game of Magic, One Piece, Pokemon, Star Wars.
Yeah, and for the most part, every single day, there's usually somebody here doing something.
Oh yeah, there's very few days I could ever think of where the store is empty.
Right.
There's not someone in here doing something, setting up something,
even
talking.
On some of our slowest days, we still have people coming in, checking out our singles, checking out our models, checking out the paints. I've had a couple of guys come in on a Tuesday night when it's pretty slow and just go and buy a handful of paints to take home for their models.
Oh yeah, or I mean, they'll sometimes come set up in here and paint their models here.
Yeah,
just to have that social aspect of it.
Just something to get out of the house.
Exactly. But
on top of, I think, everything else, the fact that you never feel like you're being ripped off either.
No.
And that's a big thing,
That
right?
is-
That is
yeah.
a big thing because we work hard for our money, you know?
Oh, yeah.
We work
It's-
hard. Everybody works hard for their money. But to come into a place where you enjoy your hobbies, where you can pick up your hobbies, where you can find more things for your hobbies, you know, and to walk away feeling like that you kind of got taken advantage of, that's a real shitty feeling.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, like
It
that's
just
a
doesn't feel
really
good.
bad feeling.
Yeah.
I have never felt that way coming here. Even as a customer for the 3 years that I was here as just a customer, I never felt ripped off. And, you know, our store policy, I think, has a lot to do with that. The fact that our owner has literally said to anybody who cares to hear it, walking through that door, as long as his price does not go up, he
Ours
doesn't
is not
upcharge.
increasing. No, we are not
Our
changing the
price
price.
does not go up. We do not base our prices off the secondary market for any of our sealed product. And sometimes that's a great deal.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when you can go on. I remember when we got the MH3 Commander decks.
Oh, man. Yeah.
And we got the
Scout
collector,
decks.
the collector editions of them, the Surge foil, where every card in it was foil.
Oh, yeah. They
Brother.
were not cheap on TCG Player.
No, sir. The secondhand market was selling the Eldrazi deck for like $700.
That was like pre-order pricing,
Yeah.
too.
I paid $100. I bought all 4 of the decks, $100 a piece,
Which is what they were supposed to retail
which
for.
is what they were retailing for. So, yeah, like sometimes it can bite you in the butt.
Oh, I mean...
Not gonna lie.
It
Sometimes it can
happens.
bite you in the butt. It's gonna happen. Sometimes a product just isn't as popular as people thought it was gonna be, and the price dips. We also can't compete with like big box stores. We can't really compete
No.
with like online retailers and things like that because they don't have the kind of overhead that we have.
No, they're not. They're
But
not
you know what's
paying
good-
employees.
great?
They're not providing you that play space.
Right. You know what's great though? Most of our regulars that come in here understand that, and they still want to spend their money here
Oh, yeah.
instead of going online.
I was going to say, people are very understanding about it, and we're very lucky for that. Because it could totally go the opposite direction. And
Right.
we're blessed to have people that understand why things are the way they are.
Right.
Because they see the benefits that they get.
So, all right. Enough.
I was about to
Let's
say.
climb down off our soapbox for a
Yeah,
bit.
right. Get off our high horse and get into some Star Wars.
Get into some Star Wars. That's what I've been waiting for. All right, so I've been champing at the bit for about a week now.
I was going to say, he's been
talk about this.
salivating, just sitting here. I can see it. He's drooling all over himself, just waiting to talk about this game.
All right, now. So, we went down to St. Augustine to GamerCore, and it was the Planetary Qualifier, which is kind of like the regional tournament. It was slotted for 72 people, and they had the space to accommodate for that
That's a
many people.
big tournament for a regional.
Not gonna lie, we were kind of like sardined in a little bit, but you kind of have to
I mean,
accommodate that
72
many.
people in any one space is going to feel
Right,
tight.
right. I think it was like 62 to 64 people showed, and I'm telling you right now, it was well handled. Everything was very organized, and the games were great. I didn't do so well. My record wasn't that good, but I never once felt like I was just completely outclassed.
Which is good. I
Which
think
is
that says a lot
great.
about the game.
That says a lot about the game. And we were worried, really, leading up to this whole thing. We were practicing and practicing and practicing. We literally built like 5 of the top meta decks that we kept seeing posted online on YouTube and on forums and things like that, talking about, you know, Quinlan Tarkentown, Cad Bane Tarkentown, Django Tarkentown, Sabine ECL, and Bosk Blue. You know, we were seeing a lot of these. Han Yellow.
Yes, Han Yellow is a big one that I've
Han
been
Yellow's
seeing.
a big one, and that deck has been winning tournaments like
Oh, yeah,
almost as frequently as Sabine has.
It has chops. I was about to say, I'm not the biggest Star Wars player. I enjoy the game. I have bought plenty of packs from every set and enjoy looking at the cards. I have not played more Star Wars than in the past month, helping everyone get ready for this tournament.
Yeah,
I have piloted so many decks.
We kind of obligated him to sit down and play.
Because someone's got to sit on the opposite side. I mean, I never thought I would get as deep into the meta game as I have, but once you pilot everything meta, you start to figure out what the strengths and weaknesses of these decks are.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
I'm a huge fan of CAD. CAD Tarkentown is a lot of fun.
It's a good deck. It's a solid deck. I mean,
Green Bean, obviously.
As far as I've heard and I've read online, Django is kind of hitting that top spot for like the Tarkentown deck, the yellow Tarkentown deck. But CAD is a lot of fun, and I think it's a really good deck too. Like I don't think it's as dominating as some of the other ones, but it's got legs.
Oh yeah, I mean, what I like about the CAD deck is it feels very combo-y. I am a combo player in a lot of games. I like being able to have a lot of moving parts that all culminate into one satisfying finish.
Sure.
Star Wars is a game that's designed to not let combos happen in the way that you would traditionally expect them to happen in a game like, say, Magic or Pokemon or One Piece even.
It's more of a synergy based game where
Yes.
cards work well together, but they're not this endless loop of over and over again. I think so far there's only been one that somebody's found, and it's so complicated that
it's why do you want to pull it
at the
off?
end of the at the end of the turn, if you pull off the thing, it's cool. But at the end of the day, wow, I cannot speak today.
It's hard.
But at the end of the day, it's just not feasible. It's easier to win other ways.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like it's a sunken cost fallacy at that point.
Right.
You have to see it through because you've dumped so much into pulling this off. When you look at a Green Bean player
who's winning on like turn 4, turn 5.
They put in a tenth of the effort
Right.
that you just had to do to pull off this crazy combo, just winning with their aggro and the tempo
Yep.
of the way they play. Because I wouldn't say Sabine's just a straight up aggro deck. She's definitely tempo that leans towards aggro.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a fine line with that. But no, what makes CAD fun to me is that you're thinking about when you're using your leader ability based off of the underworld cards that you're playing, the full underworld package, and you're really just trying to play into the now there's 2 of them, getting out a Cad Bane character as soon as possible.
Yeah. I mean, he's a 7/7 for 7 that captures up to 8 health, 3 units of up to 8 health. That's ridiculous.
Which
That's really good.
If you're playing it at the optimal time with now there's 2 of them, I think that's turn 4.
Let's see, because it costs 7, and now there are 2 of them cost 3, but reduces the cost of the other card by 5. So you're paying 3 and 2. So yeah,
Turn 3 or 4.
Turn 4, because you start with 1 extra resource. So yeah,
Yes.
if you get the most optimal hand or get the most optimal draws, you could be playing it by turn 4 easily.
Which what on turn 4 in any other deck is going to match up to a 7/7?
Right. What other 5 cost is going to match up to that 7/7 that also captures units? So, what we definitely did see, though, I will say, what I feel is like really the best part of the meta that we're kind of in right now is the fact that it's so kind of balanced that even rogue decks can win. Even rogue decks can do really well. People playing off meta is what I mean by rogue decks, obviously.
Yeah.
But so like I brought Obi-Wan ECL, right? And I specifically was planning on bringing him because I was noticing that a lot of the top decks cared about pinging things, doing a little bit of damage to them, and then killing them off with like Tarkentown.
A lot of death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah, and then the big hit with the Tarkentown for 3 damage on a non-leader unit, right? That's already damaged. So there was definitely a game where I went up against a Quinlan, and that first game, I played out my little Battlefield Marine on turn 1. They played their 2-drop on turn 1 and pinged my guy down. Exhaust Quinlan, ping your guy 1, and they got a Tarkentown sitting there staring me down. And you know, you lose that first turn play, you lose a lot of tempo.
Yes,
right.
It is.
And
it is gassing out very early.
Right, and that's one of the big things about the Tarkentown plays that a lot of people don't really realize is you can't be afraid to use Tarkentown to get rid of that turn 1 play.
Oh, there are plenty of times that I've had a turn 1 play just obliterated by Tarkin, and then you're playing catch up.
Right, you're behind the ball the whole rest of the game. So he, you know, drops his turn 2, exhausts Quinlan, pings my guy for 1. I know he's gunning. He's ready to gun to drop my Battlefield Marine with the Tarkentown. I go, cool. I'm going to exhaust Obi-Wan and heal that 1 damage. So now my guy is not damaged anymore. He can't Tarkentown him.
Yep.
And I figured that there were going to be a lot of instances of that. So I built up my deck list. It consisted of a lot of Force units, a lot of Restore, and a handful of like Sentinel synergies, because Obi-Wan flips into a 4/7 Sentinel on the 6 resource turn, and it, like I said, it did not do badly. The deck list did really well when it worked.
And that's always the struggle, right? When it
Right.
wants to work.
There's always that randomized factor in there. The fact that you may not draw the cards you need to draw. I had a game over there that I literally mulliganed both games and did not get a single turn 1 play.
Oh yeah, that's one of those things is you can look at statistics all day, you know, you can it can say that your deck list is favored 99% into whatever you're playing. If you don't see the cards that you need, you're not going to win.
Right.
It's as simple as that.
And it's not even a deck building issue at that point. It's really just the luck of the draw. Sometimes you just get hosed.
And it happens.
And what's the worst about it is, you know, no hate on any of the guys I played against. They were all great. Like I honestly, that first game that I played, and I played against a younger guy who was playing the Han Yellow list, and I just sat there. As soon as I saw his leader, I was like, oh man, because I had been practicing like hardcore against Han Yellow, because I thought he was going to be the most dominant deck there, right? It was either going to be him or Sabine, and I kind of felt like
It's a coin flip, always.
Right. I kind of felt like I had a decent chance against Sabine. I only played against it like once or twice. Both times, you know, the deck did exactly what I needed it to do. I was able to keep her off her units, and then just incrementally go and hit with bigger and bigger units, and then still win. The restore is really good for stalling out Sabine. But I ended up going up against, in round 1, a kid playing a Han Yellow list, and I try to converse, because I'll be honest with you, I have issues being in very big crowds of people that I don't know.
It's anxiety.
It's anxiety. I was really like on edge. My adrenaline was pumping, because it's like mentally I was there, I was okay, but physically, because of all the adrenaline pumping, that fight or flight kicking in, like there were parts that I was sitting there shaking a little bit.
I mean, and
the adrenaline was just rushing.
It's one of those things that you're in a competitive environment.
Right.
You're going to be nervous. You know there's something on the line. You see some people there that are cool as can be, because they're used to that environment. They're used to playing these higher stake games. They're used to going to these professional level tournaments, and, you know, being in a room with thousands of people sometimes. You know, you get to, I think about Magic especially, you know, you go to a Magic, I forget what they even call them, the Magic Cons.
Like the Grand Prix.
And their Grand Prix.
I think that's what they were used to be called.
I think they still call it
now.
Yeah. But, you know,
but
you
your
go there and there's
RCQs,
thousands
your
of
Grand
people.
Prix, your things like that. Yeah, you've got so many more people in a room that you don't know, and I'm not going to lie, a lot of the horror stories that I had been reading online on like Reddit and things like that, and I know, not a great source of information a lot of the time, but still, like, the experiences that some people were talking about being that, you know, you've got, it's more competitive, like you said. You've got a lot of people there that are only there and only interested in winning, and winning at any cost.
Oh, yeah.
And so, you know, there was a lot of like nervousness in the air about, you know, possibly making a mistake, having judges called on you, things like that. So, like I said, when I was playing this kid, I tried to talk him up. You know, I try to talk all of my opponents up, really, like just
It's good
get a
sportsmanship.
conversation.
It's good sportsmanship.
Right. So, you know, I asked him how long you've been playing. He'd only been playing for about 6 months, which, you know, that's cool. Probably started right around Shadows.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think that's when Set 2 came out, was about 6 months ago.
Right. And the biggest thing with that is a lot of places had an issue with getting product because there was such a high demand that was unexpected for the Set 1 that they kind of had to trickle product out to the stores. And I think that's where a lot of our community kind of, I wouldn't say died out, but definitely slowed down. We saw a reduction of people showing up to the store to play because we just didn't have any product there for prize support or for sale.
It's the same thing you saw with Lorcana when it first came out, right?
Right.
Lorcana, Set 1, people were over the moon. Disney card game. Weirdly, can be said the same thing for Star Wars. Still feels weird
it's still
saying
a Disney card game. It does feel a little weird to say that.
10 years, still feels weird saying that. But
yeah.
People over the moon for it. Buy out everything Set 1 related. I mean,
I'm not going to lie. I bought 15 boxes of Set 1 Star Wars when it first came out because we were all under the impression that, you know, our distributors told us, hey, order as much as you want. You can have as much as you want of it because it's not going to stop.
They said, we have got you guys.
We got you covered. Just order as much as you want. So I bought 15 boxes.
And I was like, and the players really said, watch me. And sold out. And
everywhere.
Yes, and it wasn't even a case of underproduction. I mean, I guess it was a case of underproduction, but...
It was unexpected.
Yes.
I wouldn't even say it was underproduction. I would say that it was more that it was because the demand was so unexpected. Because if you look at the numbers, they printed 3 times as much product for Set 1 as they did for the entire first year of Star Wars Destiny, the card game that came from the same company just prior to this game coming out. And I think it was really... an issue of advertisement. They promoted the game a lot more, I felt.
Oh, yeah.
I had never heard of Destiny until somebody who kind of brought the interest to our store had mentioned that the same company had made a Star Wars game previously, and I started looking into it. I had never heard of Destiny. I didn't see any cards for it. I never saw it sold anywhere. And so Star Wars Unlimited starts getting promoted, and they've got a Twitch channel that they do these Twitch streams on, and then they post them to YouTube. And I started looking into this Star Wars game because, like I said, I'm a huge Star Wars fan.
Oh yeah,
you are
Star
diehard
Wars for this.
I have loved Star Wars since the '80s.
And same thing with the owner, Braden. You know,
well,
I will never
probably more than '90s for him.
Yeah, you know, but I will never forget him telling me right before he had his sit down with FFG, where they were first unveiling for all of the the local game stores what Unlimited was going to be, and he was so skeptical. He was, it's a Star Wars game, and he's a stickler for lore and anything, whether it's Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, whatever he's into. He is a lore nerd. He will call you out the second there's an inconsistency. And he was like, I'm probably not going to like it because of this, this, and this. And he goes and sits down, comes out of the meeting, and he says, I bought the highest tier package. We're full send on this. I want this game in the store.
Yeah.
And I think that's a testament that a diehard fan
100%
can go from being skeptical to full send, give me everything you have, and has stuck with it.
And we could not get enough of it.
No, I mean...
like I said, I bought 15 boxes of it. I bought 2 starter decks because they came with the 2 decks in them, but they had, like, unique cards only in the starter deck. They're still doing that, but they're calling them Spotlight decks, I think, for the next
that's
set.
what they're shifting to with Set 4.
Which are going to be single decks, but more heavily focused on being a higher level. Because starter decks are meant to kind of introduce you into the game. These seem like they're going to be more... Now, I wouldn't say competitive. Competitive is not the right word for it, but I think they're stronger.
It's something that if you are a brand new player and your friends already play, if you bring this to the table, it's not a guaranteed loss.
Right. You're not going to be completely blown out by your friends. It's definitely and it really it's called Spotlight decks. It really kind of showcases the mechanics of the new set coming out and gives you really good cards. I mean, The new Fett's Fire Spray in the Boba Fett deck is looking really good.
Yes, I've heard a lot of buzz about that.
And then the fact that there's a new Millennium Falcon in the Han deck. And it's just, again, we'll get into a little bit more in a little bit, but
it's
back to
there's
like
a
what
lot
we're
to talk
talking
about.
There is a lot to talk about this next set coming out, but just honestly going back to the PQ stuff, like that first round, I smoked that kid. And I felt so bad about it. Like, he took game 2. I'm not going to lie. I didn't clean sweep him. But, like, game 1, no contest. Game 2, he sideboarded out some stuff, sideboarded in some stuff. He was getting a few more draws in. I wasn't drawing the best in game 2. And it came down to I had, 4 damage left on my base. He had like 3 damage left on his base. It really was the next swing was going to get it, and he surprise strikes and ends up taking me out. And I was like, okay, that's fair. That was a good game. He played the deck really well, and I tried to tell him, I was like, dude, you did really well. That deck is solid, and you piloted it really well. But then the third game, again, it was, I sideboarded out some stuff, sideboarded in some stuff, and ended up he just didn't get it. He just didn't get the draws he needed. I was able to get a lot of my bigger units down first and ended up sweeping him pretty hard. I only had like maybe 3 damage on my base by the end of it. And, he just down.
Yeah.
So after the game, like I said, I felt bad because I'm not normally a competitive person. I'm really not. I play games to enjoy them.
It's a very different mindset you have to be in to play competitive.
It's a very different mindset, and I want to be more competitive. I like playing at a higher level because I feel like the only way you're going to get better at something is by challenging yourself, which is true about anything. But, the kid did not do bad. He didn't. He did really well. Shout out to you if you end up if you end up listening to our podcast. Him and his dad were there, and they did really well in the tournament, all things considered. And with him being as young as he was, he piloted that deck very well.
And that's another thing to keep in mind. You said it's round 1. Round 1 is one of the hardest rounds in any tournament because you're generally tired, because if it's something competitive like this, you got up early to get there. You have to get into the flow of playing. That's the first shuffle you've done on your deck for the day, so it doesn't feel warmed up. The nerves haven't been calmed down yet.
Nerves are really high at that first because you're sitting down across from somebody you've never met before, usually. Well, I got a story about that one. And then, it's that tension in the air, right?
Right, because, I'm sure you know this as well as I do. Playing competitive in a game like Magic or One Piece or even Pokemon, that round 1, what is the one thing besides someone's deck that is sitting next to them in round 1? Coffee, Monster, something to help wake them up and take the nerves off.
Yeah, okay.
They're going to be jittery in that first round.
Oh, sure. When that caffeine hits you first thing.
First round and last round are where you see the most misplays. That's just a fact of life.
Yeah.
So round 1, if you either blow someone out completely or you get blown out, you always have to go in and not let it ruin your day.
Right.
Which
not
is
let it
hard.
Ruin your day.
It is so hard if you lose badly.
There were people that lost that first round and left. And that blows my mind. Like, you paid $40 to be here, you lose one game, and you're done.
Some people they can't get over that mental hurdle though, and I get it. I'd rather if I was in a bad head state after that first round, I would not want to keep going at that point.
And I get it, like the very, very competitive minded kind of people, like it is a fight to crawl your way back up in the ratings because that first round you lose that first round, nobody has any ratings yet, right?
Yeah.
And then you go into round 2, now you're playing against somebody who also lost their first round, which means their ratios are already going to be skewed badly for you, and it's an uphill battle from there because if you win that one, now you're going to be paired against somebody else who also won one, lost one. and so on and so forth down the line. Whereas people that won that first game, well, now they're going against other people that won their first game, and then so on and so forth.
Yep. And another big thing too is, unless there's an odd number of players, you're generally not going to get lucky with a pair down or something, because that's the one thing that can save. If you're X and 1, if you deal with that pair down and you're playing someone that, let's say you're in round 3 or 4, you're 3 and 1 and your opponent's a 4-0 that got paired down, you beat them, you're looking really good.
Right. Now your ratio is going to be a lot better.
But, if it's you have a nice even number for the tournament, you're not going to be dealing with those pair downs, barring drops and weird tie situations.
And we
and
definitely
stuff like
had
that.
quite a few drops throughout the day.
I'll say it's normally round 2 or 3 in a competitive environment.
Sure.
Is where you'll start to see a lot of drops. People who are recognizing that if they've lost their first 2 rounds, the chances of them getting in
they're probably not going to hit
low.
that top 16. They're definitely not going to be hitting that top 8 unless they have a ridiculous amount of drops.
Yeah.
So I can see that, especially in something like the PQs, because there are prizes on the line. There's special promos that you get for not only just participating, but for top 8, top 4, finalist, champion.
As well as, if I'm not mistaken, PQs get you an invitation to the.
It's an invitation to the Galactic Championships over, and they're hosting in Vegas this.
And I mean that's the big deal. That is the thing that people are playing for the most.
Right. Well, I'd say the day went pretty well. I know one of our guys had kind of a rough start, but he ended up going 4-2. In all 6 rounds,
which that's a strong record.
It's a good record. He there was only about 3 people ahead of him that he ranked at 19 out of 64 people that showed up. He hit 19.
That's top third. That's impressive.
I ended up dropping. My ratio was so bad that there was no chance that I was gonna be able to do anything. It wasn't worth it. But I still stuck around. I wasn't sour about anything.
No.
I just, honestly, at that point, I was just tired, and we'd been there all day, and I just wanted to support my friends. Just be there to cheer them on, see how everybody was doing. Most of our guys went 3-3. So 3 wins, 3 losses. Shout out to Joey having the most balanced record ever. 2-2. He had 2 wins, 2 losses, and 2 draws. Playing that boss deck. He was playing boss blue, so it's a very slow deck to begin with.
And that's something I want to touch on, because it feels very unique to Star Wars. Star Wars is a game where I've seen more draws in a competitive environment than in any other card game.
Yeah, I will say I'm glad that Fantasy Flight did change their rules on draws recently. Before this PQ, when we showed up, they made the announcement at the beginning of the tournament, and even then we still had people confused about it, because you got to pay attention. But so they changed their rules. It used to be that when you did like store showdowns or bigger tournaments, things like that, that a draw was considered a double loss, so both players end up losing, which just is terrible for your record, terrible for your ratio. And so recently they changed it to now they actually do include draws in your records and your ratios, and I think it's mainly because they're using melee.gg for their scorekeeping.
Which is the first time they've done that, because I know when Star Wars first started, they were using their own dedicated Fantasy Flight record-keeping stuff, which, as someone who works in a store, I wish everyone would go to using Melee or something like that.
Yeah.
Let a dedicated third-party company handle it.
Like
please.
Event Link and
I beg
whatnot.
of you. Yes.
Yeah. Let people that is their job to organize tournaments and whatnot.
Let them do their job.
Let them do their job.
I promise you, they have gotten it down to a science almost. For all the problems that Melee can have sometimes as a program when it gets bogged down, I will still take it any day over some of these programs I've had to use in the past.
We almost exclusively use Melee in the store.
Yes, it's Melee and Event Link.
Melee and Event Link, mainly because Wizards has that proprietary Event Link.
Yes.
It links up to their companion app. We make sure that everybody in the store has the companion app whenever we do a big tournament. I like Melee. I feel like it's a little bit easier user interface to understand.
Yes.
But I have run things on Event Link, and it's not that big of a deal. I would say if Wizards does ever actually listen to our stuff, whoever designs or runs that program,
Take some notes for Melee.
I would like to see commander options for event
pod
link.
building.
For pod building, because we kind of have to do it manually. Because we can post it as a commander event.
Yes,
but once it gets in there, it still just tries to pair everybody up into Swiss rounds. And I think it would be a phenomenal tool for stores to use to really kind of make tournament running easier if we could get, especially now that Commander is kind of under the umbrella of Wizards.
Yes, now that it's fully been kind of taken in.
Because before, I get it, like, they didn't really support a competitive kind of Commander scene.
It was a weird, like, yes, it's competitive, or yes, it's competitive, yes, it's official, but no, it's not. It's still a casual format. Right. Now they've kind of hammered out what they want it, what Wizards wants it to be.
Right.
I was also going to say the only proprietary program that I've used and not had a ton of issues with, Bandai's. The one that they use, their TCG Plus for One Piece and all of their stuff. Only because it makes it so nice for me as a tournament organizer that if I have 20, 30, 40 people in the store here to play One Piece, I do not have to yell out pairings.
Right.
It immediately sends it to their phones, and I can press a single button, and you get a push notification through the app. It tells you your table number. It tells you who you're playing. It makes life so easy for staying organized.
Oh, speaking of which, like, using Melee at the tournament, that's how they did all the pairings. They had, like, some 30-something tables. I think it was like 32, 30, up to like 34 tables. And yeah, you opened up melee.gg on your phone and you refresh the page to get it to bring up what your pairing was and what table you were at. And you just went over there, sat down and started playing. And I think, honestly, if Melee ever does come out with an app,
a dedicated
app for it, dude, it would be so much better, because we could start doing stuff like that where we could put little flags on the table to mark, hey, this is table 1, table 2, table 3, and we can
and it just goes.
And it just goes. We don't have to shout out pairings. We don't have to shout out names or anything like that.
I don't feel like I'm chasing you down into the bathroom to let you know who you're playing, or I don't have people coming up to me looking for their opponents.
It could give like alerts and things like that, because I know a lot of issues that we've had in the past is people go out for food or they go out for a smoke or something like that.
Oh yeah, what anyone does. If you're here for a long period of time, you can't be expected to stay in the chair playing for 100% of the time.
Yeah, no, 100%. So, yeah. I had a great experience with the PQ. Coming up, there's a 6K premier event up in Atlanta. We're getting our team kind of put together for that, and we're probably going to be heading up there. We're kind of still hashing out the details about travel and stay and food and things like that. But we're hoping that we're gonna see a good turnout this go around.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just real quick, because I know we're probably about to jump to Lightspeed spoilers, as well as a couple other things. Give us the quick rundown of how the rest of the tournament went. I know you mentioned that.
Oh, right.
It sounded like you played someone that you knew at a 64-person event, which is statistically an abnormality, to say the least.
Yeah, so that is the curse. Me and Braden, inevitably, at every event that we've ever done or been to or run, any store showdown or any pre-release, it doesn't matter how many people are there, inevitably, me and Braden always end up playing each other. Always.
I can't wait for in Atlanta. You guys somehow end up across from
Watch there be like 200 people there for day one, and somehow we'll be sitting across from each other.
And it's not round 1 either. That's what I want people to understand. It's not a round 1 pair and 2. It's like round 3 or 4. Yeah, it's late.
This PQ, it was round 3. So my round 1 was against the Han deck. My round 2 was against an Anakin blue deck that just absolutely. I'm getting the signal going. No, it was round 4. My bad. I keep forgetting that. I forget because Quinlan. They blur. So round 2 was Anakin blue. Absolutely smoked me. I was not prepared for it. It was one of the decks that we...
It's a strong deck.
It is, and that's the thing, is like we didn't prepare for it, right? We went and looked at like the top 5 decks. We built those decks and then played against them and kind of practiced against them and kind of knew what to expect from this, that, or the other, how to dismantle it. I mean, that's like I said, the Han deck was the one that I practiced against the most, and so I knew exactly how to dismantle it. But going into that Anakin fight, like one of our other guys, Brett, he faced the Anakin Blue in round 1. I think it was him. It was either him or it was Jones.
No, Jones, I know for a fact, played into Green Bean almost every single round because he was not a happy camper.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, no, I think it was Brett, and that guy smoked me. There was no contest. I could not keep up with the power that he was just dumping out onto the field. So, being a 25 hit point base versus a 30, and it just like I said, he absolutely was a fantastic pilot. Got what he needed to get down, just crammed in, and absolutely dusted my butt 2-0. So round 3 happened. I ended up facing a Quinlan Tarkentown, the deck I built to play at this thing before I decided to switch my deck up.
You were so committed to that deck for the longest time. And it feels like it was, that last hour change, it felt like.
So the kind of person that I am, the kind of player that I am, I really don't like playing meta decks. I don't like playing the meta. Yes, they're strong, but I feel like if they are meta decks, it means everybody and their brother has seen it, has seen how it plays, knows how to kind of overcome it, knows what to sideboard against it, that kind of thing.
Meta is a double-edged blade.
Meta is a very double-edged sword because you go into it, yes, your deck is strong. Yes, you know how to pilot your deck because there's a lot of information out there, to guides on how to pilot it, guides on what to expect, guides on what to sideboard and things like that. A lot of information has been gathered over many tournaments to kind of be that, here's how to play the deck.
Oh, yeah. But I can also tell you, as someone who has played card games for a long time, if I'm looking to figure out how to beat a deck, I am watching those exact same guides that you watched to build it, because now I'm understanding the inner workings of your deck, and I can start pulling it apart.
Yeah,
and knowing what makes it tick.
And that was kind of my mentality going into it. That's why I brought Obi-Wan ECL. That the fact that it's a lot of healing, it's a lot of unit healing. I was running a couple of rays just in case I needed some quick on the spot healing for my units and whatnot to keep them on the board longer, because I think that's the biggest thing that disrupted. And that first game that I played against the Quinlan deck, I knew what Quinlan was there for. Quinlan is an aggro deck. He's an aggro deck that utilizes Tarkentown to get rid of that first turn unit and really offset your tempo, right? And it tempos out, playing bigger and bigger units, playing fast units, get them in there, smack into you a couple of times, and win. Utilizing a lot of the force units for stuff like force throw and whatnot, and that ends up being like what he did was he used a lot of discard outlets with Spark of Rebellion and force throw, and just kind of shredded my hand. But that first game, he did not know what to expect,
and so it lets you take it easy,
right? So he saw Obi-Wan. He tried the whole, I'm going to ping your guy your first turn to try and get it, and I said, no. Tap Obi-Wan, heal that damage off. I still have my unit out on board. Swing in and kill your unit next turn. That kind of thing. And it worked. And I used a lot of units that, were bigger than his or had some restore on it to kind of keep me healthy. I could throw down lightsabers on most of my units to make them even bigger. I even threw a lightsaber down on a Battlefield Marine just to make it a 6/6.
Yeah, at some point, it's the stat line is what matters.
Right.
The extra text is superfluous. Sometimes you just need the stat buff to keep something around and keep it working.
Yeah. So game 1 in that round went phenomenally for my side. Then we sideboarded, and it seemed like right then and there was where my luck changed the rest of the night, the rest of the day. I could not draw anything that kept me on board. I didn't hit any turn 1 plays in that second game. and he ended up sweeping me. I did not hit anything. I didn't hit any of my sideboarded cards. I didn't hit any of my recovery cards. I didn't hit any of my removal cards.
Trust
it was
me,
just.
I know what it's like. It sucks.
I literally was sitting at hand with 3 perilous positions and 2 Kanan Jarruses. It was gross.
Oh yeah.
So, he took that game round 3. Pretty much the same story all over again. I got a few units out. He managed to Tarkin Town what he needed to Tarkin Town. It was a bit closer in round 3, but ultimately he still ended up, winning. I think it was like 16 damage on his base, and he ended up finishing me off.
Yeah.
So we get to round 4, right? Round 4, what ended up happening? I faced against Braden, the guy I've been playing against pretty much the entire time we were practicing.
It was just like a true practice game all over again.
All over again. And it was a coin flip. It's a coin flip. Between me and him, between the 2 decks that we brought, it's pretty much a coin flip. And it just happened to be that mine kept flipping tails. Because, yeah. I won the first game. He won the second game. We go to the third game. And it comes down to one more hit.
Which is such a stressful spot to be in.
But it was great. It was a good game. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that game. It was a lot of fun. But, at the end of the day, he takes it. And that's cool. I'm okay with that. My teammate wins, gets his record up better, goes on, and maybe he can pull ahead. So I'm always there to support. 5th round, which is the round I ended up dropping after. 5th round, I face one of the Sabine decks. My deck is favored to win against Sabine. It has enough recovery, it's got enough sentinels, it's got enough ways to remove Sabine early, to get rid of her more valuable cards, and to ultimately just smack face with bigger units. So if you look at it if you look at it in a database, Obi-Wan's probably favored to win that matchup. But I had 4 hands. 4 hands did not get a single turn 1 play. And you can't. You have to have a turn 1 play against Sabine. You have to be able to deal with the damage that she's bringing in early.
But it's just like what we talked about. It doesn't matter. Everything online can say that you are 99% favored. That 1% is going to rear its ugly head at some point. And it is going to put you in your place. And it is going to teach you.
He was a great guy. I have like I said, all of my opponents were great guys. They understood, it's just unfortunate. Sometimes the bad luck was there. He even, after the game, he was like, man, I felt so bad about that because you just were drawing, absolute garbage. I'm like, I know, man. My decks just seem to hate me when I get into a competitive swing because it's the same thing. In casual play, I can win pretty often, right? I don't always win. Not saying I'm a perfect player or anything. I make mistakes. But I love card games. I love the strategy of card games, and I tend to put together decks because I see the synergies and things like that. And a lot of times I do really well in the casual environment. When I get to those tournaments, those weekly play tournaments, get into the store showdowns, inevitably I choke.
The draws just turn off?
The draws just turn off, or, they have better draws. And a lot of times you can't always just blame the draws. Sometimes it's just a bad matchup.
Well, it's a bad matchup, or there's just some fatal flaw in the deck that's starting to show up now that it's been run enough times.
Now that it's been run a couple of times and you've played against some other people and you kind of see that, sure, I can put out some units, but then they board wipe. And now I'm kind of floundering because I don't have a way to recover after that. So you definitely, and it, like I said, almost an hour ago now.
God, we really just have been talking, huh?
Pretty much. Like I said almost about an hour ago, the fact of the matter is, the more you practice with your deck, the more the games you get out, especially against people that are better, or not even necessarily better, but different. Not just the same people over and over and over again. You will grow. You will learn. You will notice things that you didn't notice before. Case in point, before we even left, I had been practicing the Obi-Wan deck for about 3 days. I was pretty dead set on it. Braden was like, why aren't you running timely interventions? And I'm like, well, I didn't really feel like I needed it. You know, I'm not trying to run my guys into everybody else's stuff. I'm trying to build up that wall and then just hit harder than them. And he was like, you're playing a green deck. Run timely interventions. It's an ambush card. It gives ambush to units that don't have ambush. And it's a smuggle card, so it means you can put it in your resources and just save it for later.
Which just makes it that much more valuable.
Right, because you don't have to worry about keeping it in your hand. It's not going to get shredded by any kind of discard. The worst you have to worry about is either DJ stealing it when they're playing the Han deck, or somebody running Scanning Officer happens to get lucky and hits it, right? So he was like, why aren't you running timely interventions? And I said, you know what? I'll try it. So I grabbed some timelies, threw it in the deck, took out some stuff that just really wasn't working for me, and it played so much better. And then the other thing, one of our other local players, LeBrandon, was like, are you running Typho, Captain Typho? And I'm like, not really. I mean, he's a 3-drop, he's a 2/4. He gives Sentinel when he enters and when he attacks, so it's a good card, not denying that. But it didn't really fit. I felt like it didn't really fit because I already had sacrificed a couple of Force units for other units. You know, I put in some Ryloth militias because I needed some more units that could hit for 3 damage and come out on turn 1. I had originally been running Barriss Ophi. Interesting ability, not a great card. A 1-drop 1/1 that dies almost immediately. So I already felt like I sacrificed a decent amount of Force units. I ended up cutting the Obi-Wan Facing Fate, the unit, the 4/6 with Sentinel. You know, so I ended up cutting that unit to replace with Aelys and Secura, so that I had a bigger 6/5 smasher, didn't take damage, that kind of thing. So
I was going to say, I remember you looking for the Aelyses, like, leading up to, like, I think the day before you guys left, you know? So the deck was always a work in progress, even up to that last minute.
Right. By the time I got there, you know, I still didn't add in the Typhos and whatnot, and I got to thinking about it after the fact. I'm like, man, if I really had that extra Sentinel, those games probably would have gone a little bit differently. If I had the Typho instead of running all Yodas, maybe it would have done a little bit better. You know, Yoda's a Force unit. He's a Jedi. He can hold a saber really well. He's got Restore 2. He's a great unit.
Yes.
But when he only has 2 power and they can just ignore him and smack base,
he's very easy to ignore. If he
Right.
doesn't have the saber, he isn't super buffed up.
so
One thing I will say, because I just happened to get sent this, I have the top 8 for the
tournament,
the event that y'all
yeah.
went to.
Okay.
So I'll just gonna run down this
yeah,
really quick.
let's hear it.
So first place was Bosk Green.
Hang on. I want to butt in for a second.
I'm being interrupted by someone.
I want you to look at his reaction when you tell him who got second place.
All
Boss
right.
Green, okay.
So Bosk Green got first. Second was Quinlan Tarkentown.
Of course.
Yep, there it is.
The
The
deck
deck.
that I decided not to play ends up taking second.
Yes. Third was Han Yellow. Fourth and fifth were Django Tarkin.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Sixth was Anakin Blue.
Yep, that makes
Seventh
sense.
was Bosk Blue, and eighth was Bosk ECL. So a lot of Bosk.
Yeah, there's a lot of Bosk. And we've been seeing that, too. We've been seeing that a lot in the PQs, that a lot of people are getting away from Boss Blue because it's very slow.
It's so
very
slow. I hated playing into that deck when we were trying to get this testing done
Yep.
for everyone's stuff. It felt so grindy.
And it's not even that Joey, the guy who was running the deck, was playing slow. He really wasn't. I mean,
No.
he's new to the game, so he does have to like read the cards a lot. But after so many practice rounds of playing the deck, like he really picked up on how to play. It's just that the deck itself has so many moving parts, and it slows the game down so much because you're not really hitting for a lot of damage, but you're removing their units. You're healing up the damage that they do to you, and it really doesn't swing the Boss tries to get to that later game and finish you off with things like Snoke or the Avenger, and
Oh,
it
man,
doesn't have
Avengers.
a way to get them out early. So they literally slow the game down to the point where you're hitting 9, 10, 11, 12 resources and just, yeah.
It stops. It does not feel good. That
No.
is the only thing I will say. I'm never one to hate on a deck list because I think all decks have their value.
Sure.
That deck just does not feel fun to play into. You know you're in for, like you said, a grindy game. You are waiting to those super late turns. And I've seen plenty of boss decks that will fizzle at those turns because they're not hitting their Avengers, they're not hitting their Snokes. So you're still just sitting there because they have the removal.
Yep, they got the removal.
They will play the game of, you are not doing anything till I hit my stuff. So they will hold you there until they finally hit it. And it doesn't matter if it's the last couple cards in their deck. You will be stuck waiting till they hit their stuff so they can win the game.
Yeah, a lot of times the decks will go to time because of that. You only get 55 minutes per round, and you're supposed to be knocking out up to 3 games in that round. With Bosk, you're barely going to get 2.
Which, I mean,
best.
it's so crazy to me because Magic, for the longest time, has been 50-minute rounds, best of 3.
Yeah.
That is what we are used to. It has worked for a very long time. So, and don't get me wrong, Magic, people go to time all the time.
Sure.
All the time it happens.
But I feel like Star Wars is a bit of a course of a different color. Okay.
Yes.
Because it's a different way to play. It's an action reaction game, right? I do a thing, then you do a thing, then I do a thing, then you do a thing, until we run out of things to do, and then we both pass and move on to the next turn. With your traditional card games, it's you get to take your entire turn, I take my entire turn, then you take your entire turn. So I feel like those kinds of games, when they go to time, it's like, well, you were just kind of playing slow then at that point.
Yeah, it makes
you were purposefully stalling out the game.
Yes, it makes me wonder if in future competitive seasons, if we will see the time per round get expanded just a little bit. Nothing crazy. Maybe go from 55 minutes to the full hour.
Like
maybe
a full
give it an
hour.
hour 10.
Sure.
An hour 10 might be a sweet spot just because anything beyond that,
well,
it turns into
the top
a
8
nightmare.
rounds. The top 8 rounds were 70 minutes long. They added an extra 15 minutes.
Which that's really nice, and that does heavily favor a deck like Bosk.
Right.
Getting that extra time.
Getting the extra time, because that means you're not going to go to turns, you're not going to go to rounds or whatever they call it. You're not going to go to time as often, because eventually you will hit your big pieces.
Yeah, there's
as
only so
long
many
as you can
cards in the
stall out
deck.
long enough.
You gotta draw into the good stuff eventually.
So, yeah. So, I mean, it was fun. I'd love to do it again. It was definitely an experience. It was a great bonding experience for our team.
Oh, yeah.
I consider all those guys friends, and we just
First
kinda,
real
we kinda
outing
had
for
fun.
you guys too.
Yeah,
as a team.
that was our first team outing, and like I said, we got this Atlanta trip coming up. We're working on doing kind of some fundraising for it to kind of get some money put aside. We're looking for sponsors. So anybody out there that would be interested in sponsoring our team, any local businesses, we'd love to hear from you.
We've got a really strong mall player on the team. Please, he needs your financial support to go to Atlanta.
He cannot financially recover from these
He will
losses.
not recover without this.
But I mean, I think the mindset, like this was definitely an eye opener. It was a learning experience. Everybody kind of coming into it with like me, for example, just not being a fan of running meta, really wanting to build counter meta, but you can't counter everybody.
No.
Right. So you kind of have to just build the best deck that you can. And we were talking about it on the ride home. We were like, yeah, we came in there, we had fun. Everybody had fun. But we kind of were like, wow, this is kind of an eye-opener. There's a reason why meta decks are meta decks.
Mm-hmm. They're consistent.
They're good. They're consistent. They're strong. They're fast in most cases. They win games. And so we kind of all talked about it and agreed that maybe next time that we go to some kind of competitive scene, maybe we look into building the meta decks. Maybe we look into picking one that kind of fits our play style and then just going with it. I love more slower mid-range decks. Maybe I need to look into something like that. Maybe pick up that, because we have the cards. Right?
Oh, you guys have the cards.
Between me, between Braden, between a lot of the other guys in the team, we have the cards to build the meta decks.
There is no question in my mind that you guys have every single card printed for the game so far in spades.
At least. So the interesting thing I think will be is if we get confirmation as to whether or not set 4 is going to be legal in the Atlanta tournament, because it comes out, we get our pre-release is going to be on the 8th of March at our store. It's a $35 entry, but you get the pre-release kits, which, to be fair, the last couple of pre-releases we've had, those kits have been fire.
The showcase, I don't know
Oh
what
my
they're
god,
putting
the
up.
showcase
showcases
ratio that people pulled at the last pre-release for
was
Twilight.
insane.
Dude, we had 3 showcases pulled, 2 of them from pre-release kits.
Which is just ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. I mean, Braden has already said that he's going to just buy a case of pre-release kits for himself instead of buying
going
boxes.
off of the hit rates. Like,
he's just going to buy the pre-release kits because I think they come like 15 to a box.
I
There's
think
6
something
packs
like that.
per box plus the promotional leaders.
yeah,
and whatnot.
which whatever after a
Whatever
certain
at this point. But dude, like, if we get those kind of ratios, like, maybe that is the way to go. I plan on picking up a couple of boxes initially. I love the game enough that I've decided to shift away from Magic and start kind of recycling my collection, finding people that play Magic still around here, offering up a lot of trades and things like that. After a buddy of mine who's big into like collecting a lot of the older cards and whatnot that I've had for a long time, after he goes through it, I'm probably gonna talk to the owner, talk to Braden, and see if there's anything in the collection that would be worth kind of trading into the store, just to kind of get what I need, because I'm transitioning games. I'm kind of moving further.
It's
and
a
further into
natural
Star
thing
Wars.
that people do.
Right. It's no hate on Magic. I still enjoy the game. I still have decks for it. I'm not enjoying it as much as I'm enjoying Star Wars, and I think that's going to be kind of my game moving forward for a while.
Oh yeah, I mean it's the same for me. I will never hate Magic. Magic was the game that got me into card games, really and truly. I will always keep a commander deck ready. I will cycle through building standard and pioneer decks when something piques my interest. But for me, at the very least, I've transitioned over to playing a lot of the One Piece TCG.
Yeah.
That's been what's been grabbing me. That's where I've been. My brain goes there now instead of immediately to Magic when I'm thinking in terms of card games. Which, will that change eventually? I'm sure. Will I go back to Magic? Will I go to something else? Time will only tell there. But
like I was saying,
it's natural for nerds.
Yeah. So, but like I was saying, like the real question is going to be: is Set 4 going to be legal in this Atlanta tournament? And if it is, we're going to need to get our hands on a lot of these cards
And quickly.
Right? So, using that as a magical segue into our next segment.
Perfect.
Some of the spoilers for Set 4. Have you been looking at these lately?
I have been peeking at them. There are a few cards that have definitely had me thinking a little bit. There's several leaders that I'm really interested in. I'm loving what they're doing with the leaders now.
Yeah.
Where it's not just the standard leader on one side, character on the other.
Yeah.
Now that we're doing this thing where leaders can flip into upgrades.
Yeah. So the pilot mechanic.
Yes,
that's
piloting
kind of the
I think is
new,
interesting.
That's the new kind of mechanic for this set, right? So each set tends to have like one kind of showcase or two showcased kind of mechanics for the set, and this one, the new keyword is going to be pilot. So all it does is you can play a card for its pilot cost, and you can attach that card, usually a unit, to a vehicle, and it gives that vehicle some kind of buff. And there are quite a few leaders in each of the colors, and it looks like there's one pilot for each color pairing for both villain and hero, right? So, you've got Asajj Ventress is the pilot for villain blue.
Yes.
Tap, deal 1 damage to a friendly unit. If you do, deal 1 damage to an enemy unit in the same arena, and that's on her leader side. And then she can flip at 6 resources, and you can either deploy her as the leader, or you can deploy her as the upgrade to a vehicle, which is the attached leader. The attached unit becomes a leader, and she gives it grit. And then on attack, she can do the same ability she has on the front, right?
Yep.
And so she's a 4/6 on her unit side. As an upgrade, she's a 3/4. And honestly, a free upgrade that buffs a ship to a 3/4, super good, right? Especially if it's a space unit. Now, don't get me wrong, destroying upgrades is going to be a thing.
Yes, and we're already seeing it.
We are already seeing that people are talking about building decks that are just straight up anti-pilot, because they can get rid of upgrades, they can use cards to get rid of upgrades, they can use units that get rid of upgrades. Yes. I meant events. They can use events to get rid of upgrades. They got units that can get rid of upgrades. So I really feel like you're going to see a surge of upgrade removal.
It doesn't help either that because of Bosk Blue being so popular, everything from the first 3 sets that is good at removing upgrades has been identified as being run, because that's one of the only counterplays you have to Bosk Blue.
Right.
Is removing the bounties that it sticks on your stuff, some of the upgrades it uses to put shields and other things to keep their units sticking around. So it'll be interesting seeing how the pilots do into competitive. But something that I wanted to highlight, because you mentioning that it does turn the attached unit into a leader, that is a way of avoiding a lot of removal.
That's true.
A lot of cards that specify non-leader
units.
So if you have something that you don't want to get taken out, like some sort of, like a vehicle.
Look at the TIE Phantom.
That's
the TIE
a huge
Phantom
one.
already can't be removed by defeat effects, by card effects, cannot be damaged by card effects, can't be captured. You throw that on there as like a leader unit now it can't even be targeted by bounce effects and things like that. I mean, look at Waylay. Waylay literally says a non-leader unit.
You have to run into it.
So now you're going to have to smash into it. And with things like Asajj, who buffs it 3/4, it goes from being a 2/2 with Raid 2 to being a 5/6 with Raid 2.
Or you look at something like the new Vader, our new green villainy. Mm-hmm. When he flips into a pilot, he is giving something 5/5 in stat lines, +5/+5.
It's gross.
That is ridiculous. That is taking a 3/2. You're taking a 3/2 to an 8/7.
Yeah. And there are a lot of really good vehicles in this set. A lot of good vehicles in this set. Like this, it's called Jump to Lightspeed. Obviously, we're going to get a lot of vehicles. We're going to get a lot of space units. We're going to get a lot of things that interact with space units.
Yes, which is something that the game has needed, because while they've introduced a lot of good space stuff so far, this is our first time really focusing in on space and taking advantage of the separate fields that they're played in.
Right. Because that was kind of the thing. There was one space unit that could attack ground units. We've been promised that we're going to get a ground unit that can now attack space units, which I think is going to be really interesting.
Yes, I think that'll be a lot of fun.
The other thing that I want to point out is it's not just the pilots that are really good in this set.
Some of these other, the regular leaders and a lot of these units that we're seeing.
So the big one that I think a couple of people around here are really looking at, and I mean really looking at, Grand Admiral Thrawn. We're finally getting another version of Grand Admiral Thrawn. And this one is fantastic.
There are so many people I've seen that were over the moon to see Thrawn getting another card.
So he's a leader that flips on 6, right? But his static ability, it's no exhausting, no tapping, no nothing. His static ability is, when you use a when defeated ability, exhaust this leader. If you do, use that ability again. It's a reaction, right? It's not an activated ability is what I was meaning. It's not a tapping to exhaust or whatever. It's a reaction. So it basically nests the ability into another thing that you're already doing. So whatever action you took to get that when defeated to trigger, now you're getting an additional use of it. That's really gross. And then on his backside, like his backside's not super, super impressive. He does have a decent stat line now.
Yes,
right?
4/7 is really strong.
It's a solid stat line. It's a 6 flips 4/7, which is what we're kind of seeing now as the kind of the stat lines kind of have evened out a lot.
Yeah, that's kind of the expected baseline. One that I've been interested in personally, and I know it's not going to probably have a ton of support just yet, Admiral Holdo. I don't know what it is. I'm actually liking the resistance support, and being able to give a resistance unit or a unit with a resistance upgrade, because I think that's a key word here. +2/+2 for the phase, and when she flips, she's a 3/8. Like that's a body that sticks around for a while.
Yeah.
Do I think it's going to be some crazy out of left field meta warp? No shot.
No shot.
As a green heroic, I just don't foresee it having that impact. But as a fun deck, for someone like me who plays very casually, I think it'll be fun to play with, especially if I go for green heroic with some blue base, so that I can use a lot of the resistance cards that are already existing, or I go red to use things like Poe. Well, that was a crazy potential interruption. I don't know how we're going to deal with that.
I don't know.
But what were we talking? Oh, I was talking about.
You were talking about Admiral
Holdo.
Holdo. You're interested in it. I mean, I'm looking at her. Sure, giving something +2/+2 for the phase. That's nice. Like you said, I don't think it's going to be meta warping. I don't think it's going to change a lot of people's builds. The fact is that we've had a lot of cards in the game already that give a static +2/+2, right? For a face, but that's all it does. It doesn't give it an extra attack. It doesn't do anything else like that. So I don't see it really. It's going to be a casual deck. I really feel like it's going to be a casual deck. It's going to be interesting, but I don't see it doing really well, like you said, in the competitive scene.
Yeah. As far as other things,
This becomes the new meta. I click that quote, play it back.
Oh yeah, sure.
Please
When
do.
this becomes the new meta, sure. Click it, cut it
I will
back,
feel
play it
so
back.
vindicated if that somehow becomes the new meta.
You know what? I will admit on air that you guys are right.
But other things to talk about though, outside of just jump to light speed, other Star Wars things that we've been messing around with.
Yeah.
There's Shatterpoint.
Yeah. So we're talking about going ahead and doing a day dedicated to the squad-based miniature games that we carry in the store. One of them being Shatterpoint. Shatterpoint's the Star Wars game, and already I have finished building the first set of terrain and all of the units from the starter set, which I think is like about 200. I think it was 200. when I bought it.
It's a pretty solid expected starting point
Right,
for a miniature
but you
game.
you get a complete army or a complete squad for both sides, and a lot of terrain, which is really like it's well worth the price tag, right? Then on top of that, they have plenty of expansions. I bought the Obi-Wan Kenobi and Commander Cody expansion kit. I bought the Count Dooku and Jango Fett expansion kit. Gonna be putting those together as soon as we figure out how to play the game. We're gonna be putting those together. We're definitely gonna start doing this regularly. We're gonna have people coming in. We've got Shatterpoint, and we've got the Halo Flashpoint game that has its starter kits right now.
Oh yeah, I love that. By the way, all of these miniature games, for some reason, they love to put "point" in the title somewhere. When we've talked about this,
Yeah.
I don't know how many times we have mixed up the names talking about them.
Yeah.
So it is such a conscious effort right now to make sure that it is Star Wars, Shatterpoint, Halo, Flashpoint.
Right. Flashpoint, Shatterpoint. But it's basically going to be a point night.
Yeah, the Point Mini.
The point and the mini night. I've played the Halo Flashpoint game.
That one is
It's
a
a
ton
lot
of
of fun. It's all of the PvP modes basically in tabletop form. You build a squad. You get 4 points to build a squad. Each unit costs 1 point unless they're legendary. Then they cost 2, so you can make either a 4-man or a 3-man.
Right now, there's only the one legendary unit.
That's true. Master
It's
Chief
just
is the
Master
only
Chief.
one, which we have a couple of copies of still.
Yeah, because they were supposed to go out with pre-orders. We didn't see as many pre-orders as we expected. So now, whenever someone picks up one of the Spartan Edition kits, which is their kind of expanded starter,
We've got one more in the back that I saw just the other day. So we've got at least one. And if we actually start seeing more interest in it, because we've got the Recon Edition, which just has the 2 squads of space. I was about to say call them Space Marines.
Yeah, right.
Spartans, the 2 squads of Spartans, and the terrain. It comes with the cardboard terrain and whatnot, and it's pretty heavy duty cardboard too.
Yeah, it's
anything-
not flimsy.
And then all the rules, and then the Spartan Edition for just a little bit more comes with a squad of elites.
Which is the only way to get the elites
Which is
right
the
now.
only way right now to get the elites. They are talking about making expansions, just like they did with Shatterpoint, where you can buy the unique expansions and make squads out of all the different ones.
The way Mantic is talking about the game, they have so much in the pipeline.
Right.
One of the few things that I heard when first testing out the game, because we got in a demo copy early, and we got to mess around with that a lot.
Yeah.
Something I heard a lot when people talking about it is they said that it's a ton of fun. It feels a little bit too much like just a standard board game right now, just because of what's in the box.
That's kind of the limiting factor I think the game has right now. It's just the fact that you're only getting the starter kits right now. But they've been working. They worked with Army Painter and have a unique box of paints specifically for this game. It's the only way to get those colors.
Yes, which they're great colors.
Yeah,
they really do work.
I'm a model painter. I paint a lot of the little minis around here. I paint minis for friends and whatnot, and I did Master Chief, and it came out solid. It looked like Halo 2 Master Chief.
Yeah, and because I remember you trying to look for comparisons before you got a hold of those paints. You were trying to figure out like what would come close, and you were going through a lot of legwork.
Right, a lot of legwork to find like paints that kind of match up, and then finally we got our hands on the actual paint kit. I did 2 different models. I did one with just your normal War Painter Army Paint tubes, and then I did one with the actual proprietary paints,
special paints that they've come out with,
and it's not really that big of a difference. The one that I painted before, still great. I love war painters, honestly. As somebody who's been painting models a lot lately, I love war paint. The Army Painter war paint line is super solid for getting your colors. They've got a really great gradient, and
their gradient
shows it
is
on the
what
bottle.
I love.
So that I've been gauging, like, okay, I need a darker color, I need a lighter color, I need some highlights, whatever.
I have a whole army of Necrons that are getting painted up right now.
Yep.
And the person who's doing it for me, she uses a ton of Army Painter stuff, and her gradient work is insane because Army Painter will just offer in every single color. There are 5 or 6 different shades that you can run through.
Different values from dark to light.
Yes, and it lets you really work out gradients. It lets you build on them and really show off a lot of detail work.
Yeah. So, and honestly, like I said, because I'm almost exclusively using war paints, it's also a great way to kind of showcase the quality of paint that we have in the store, right? Again, not to climb back up on that soapbox or anything, but the fact of the matter is, those models have been coming out great. I painted there was a Legion, Star Wars Legion's Darth Maul that Braden has that he wanted to use as his initiative counter for the Star Wars game. And so I was like, you know what? I got nothing better to do. I'm bored. I'll go ahead and prime it. I used the brush on primer, let it dry, went back to it, and painted it. And I painstakingly sat there and painted the tattoos and all the horns and tried to get a good gradient on the lightsaber and everything like that. And the entire time we were at the PQ, he kept getting compliments about that mini, and just hey, my guy painted it with war paints. So I think it's solid. I mean, you get the box, and both games you have unpainted minis inside it, which means you're going to prime them, you're going to paint them how you want to paint them, so they're going to look. And that, for me, that means that each model, each unit is going to be unique,
and it's yours. It shows, lets you express your creativity. You don't have to abide by like a paint by the numbers thing that says do this in this color, this and that color. No, you do whatever you want. You want to paint them solid black, go for it. You want to paint them hot pink, pastels, whatever you want to do. Paint your stuff the way you want to paint it.
Yeah,
it makes it yours. But what night were we talking about doing the Shatterpoint and Flashpoint, or the Point Mini night?
So right now, we don't really have anything going on Mondays. We don't really have anything going on Tuesdays. We are really supposed to be having our Wednesday night board game night. I think what we might try doing is polling some people. We might throw a poll up on our Facebook or something. We'll talk to Anna about possibly throwing up a poll and seeing what night people kind of would be interested in doing that. I mean, it's going to be, we've got gaming tables in here, so we definitely have the space to play the game. But what's great about both of these games is they don't take up a lot of room. It's not like Warhammer where it's 5 feet by 3.5 feet, and you have to have that space to kind of play the game. It's more contained, a
lot more contained.
I think it's a 16 by 16 grid for the Halo game. We had some people, Robert and Roger, who come in regularly.
Yes,
and they like playing a lot of their games.
Mini.
They come in, they just use our table space and whatnot. They play some interesting games.
They put me onto some insane
board
games.
They've got some great ideas out there. I love talking to them about the different things. They have a Lord of the Rings game they play. They bought one of the starter kits for Shatterpoint. He built it, painted all the minis and whatnot, and they were playing it out here. And it looked like it took up, like I said, less space than Warhammer does.
A lot less space.
Which means you could go and set on one of our back tables and play
just
this
go.
game. You could pull out a folding table and play this game. So
you don't need the full wargaming table
Right.
set up. You're not slapping 2 folding tables together.
So
it's smaller form factor. It's easy to transport.
Yep.
And the price point feels a little less daunting because,
yeah, definitely.
at the
Because,
top
like you
of the
said,
show,
Halo feels more like a board game right now, right?
Which it's
Halo feels like
definitely-
more of a board game.
it's definitely not. That's not
It's
what they're
not.
intending.
That's not what the intention is, but it feels that way right now, and that's fine. And Flashpoint, it feels a little bit more investment. You have to snip the models out.
It's Shatterpoint. You see, you did the thing.
I did the thing. I
just brought it
Shatterpoint.
up. It's the point-based mini games.
Right. So the Star Wars point-based mini game, you have to clip out the models just like you would with any GW product or any mini product usually on the shelves, but you can use the plastic glue. You don't have to use things like super glue to put it together or Gorilla Glue or anything like that. You use plastic glue, and it adheres really well, and you can basically slap the stuff together quick enough. You don't have to paint them. There's no rule saying you have to.
No.
And you can jump right into a game. Looking at from just what I've cursory read, it is a point system. You build your squad based on points, and there's certain factions and alignments and things like that you kind of have to adhere to with the thing. Like I have yet. I'm sure there are modes for it, but I have yet to see where you can play like a Dooku with an Obi-Wan or something like that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's rules.
I'm sure there's rules for it, but
we'll probably figure that out. Probably later today, honestly. We'll sit down and mess around with it.
I've got some errands I got to run, but I'm planning on coming back to the store after them and sitting down and kind of learning the game. We've got a couple other guys already said that they want to come up here tonight. It might be a Monday night thing that we end up doing
Which
would
Lord
be
knows we
perfect
need
because honestly,
something.
we don't really have much going on.
No,
we don't have
besides
scheduled.
doing this right here.
Yeah, we sit here and record these on Monday nights. We post them up live or not live, but we post them
up on Thursdays.
On Thursdays, to keep to our schedule. So it gives us time. It gives us time to kind of build up what we're going to be talking about in the next show.
Which tells you that next week we'll probably talk about playing Shatterpoint. I know I definitely want to talk a little bit about Warhammer next week because there's a lot of big releases and we have a tournament that we're doing.
Yep, we have the tournament coming up on the 23rd.
23rd.
Yep.
Last Sunday of the month.
Last Sunday
we're
of the
doing
month.
A doubles tournament. It's going to be a ton of fun.
Doubles tournament this time. That's interesting because the last tournament that I played up here, it was a singles. And we only had like 7 people show up.
To give you an idea of how much it's grown, this is a doubles tournament. We are slotting for 24 players.
24 players. We've done some rearranging in the store to make room for that.
So that means 12 teams.
Jeez.
6 tables running all together at the same time. We have high expectations. The last tournament that we hosted last month, I slotted for 15 or 16 players.
But yeah, I thought it was something like 16 players. So we had about 8 tables running. we had to turn people away because we didn't have the room for them.
It was insane. I never anticipated it because, again, like we've talked about, Warhammer is one of those games. It is still kind of niche for nerds because of that upfront investment.
Yep.
It's very daunting to people. It's not the same as Magic where you just turn up, you can buy a deck, and the deck is ready to go. Even when you're buying a starter set of Warhammer, you still have to sit down. You put the effort in. You're building, painting, making the army your own. There's a lot of thought that goes into it. That's why when you see someone show up with their army for Warhammer, you know that they have committed hours upon hours just to getting it ready to hit the table, and all of the learning that goes into playing a faction. So that's why we've been so happy to see it growing for us locally. But yeah, we have that happening. I know I'm going to talk your ear off at some point soon about One Piece because that release is coming soon.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, whenever we do it, like Star Wars is my game. It's the one I know the most about. It's the one that I play regularly. I have a One Piece deck. I'm playing Zoro. I said it in the last episode when we were talking a little bit about One Piece. I have the Zoro deck. I considered swapping him out for the Sanji. I wanted to try the Nami deck. It's an interesting enough game. I don't have the time usually to come up when we're actually running it, which I'm glad we're switching the night to Saturday.
I think Saturday's a better night.
Saturday might be just a hands down better night because I think originally we were trying to do it on Mondays,
and Mondays was just not
never
working.
Fired off. And then we moved it back to Sundays. We moved it back one day to Sundays.
And we've been seeing a lot more success there. We're getting about 10 to 12 people consistently.
Yeah, 10 to 12. And then I believe we were talking to some of the other players, and they were saying that Saturdays might in fact be better for them. So gonna try it on a Saturday, see if we get more people coming in.
Give it a test.
Saturday is our Lorcana. They come in around noon and try to start playing around 1.
And they're normally finished up around like 5 or 6.
Right, and then about the same time, Star Wars kind of goes off. So we have our casual Star Wars or our weekly Star Wars, stuff. I have not been able to make it to that for a little bit. I've been working a lot at my other job. A lot of overtime.
Oh yeah.
And then I've got the Rugrat at home that I've got to take care of and things like that. So it's definitely been a challenge to get up here. I love the game enough though that I make time for it.
Of
I
course.
always try to get a couple of games in a week. I think gearing up towards this Atlanta tournament, we're going to be spending more and more time in the store playing and learning and building and trying to find the thing. Like I said, if we end up getting to the point where we know that Set 4 is released, Set 4 is legal in the tournament, we're going to be hammering out games that 2 weeks time between release.
I'm fully prepared to be used as a guinea pig once again.
100%. You are going to be sitting there hammering out games. But I'm definitely looking forward. We've got a lot of stuff on the docket. We've got a lot of stuff coming up. In a little bit less than a week, we're going to be doing the auditions for the D&D
podcast. I'm super excited for that too.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of seeing what's going to be happening there because, not going to lie, I've been playing and running D&D for like 20-ish years, a little bit more, and honestly, I'm looking forward to seeing what this community can throw at us.
And I'm expecting a lot. I think that we have some really strong role players, some people that are ready to put their acting chops out there. Role play and acting go hand in hand.
Yeah.
A lot of role players are actors who just never hit the stage. Let's be honest.
I mean, acting in front of a mirror is a little bit easier than acting in front of a crowd of people. But,
exactly. But
I definitely think that we're gonna see some talent. We're going to see some hidden talents that people haven't really showcased. So
we're going to see a ton of joke characters, a lot of fun characters.
I definitely think that we're going to see a lot of joke characters. And while I'm not opposed to joke characters, I'm hoping that this takes off and we're going to actually have a lot of fun with it. I love banter back and forth amongst my players when I have it there. I love funny events that happen, some wild things that happen. Overall, I think this is going to be a great experience. Just gotta hit that grind, give it a try, and we're working towards getting some funding for it. We're looking for people to sponsor the stream.
So
get their business. So if you're a local business, by all means, contact us. We've got plenty of advertising space. We've already gotten a commitment from Old School Dice. We talked about it last episode.
Yes, we're getting all sorts of dice
all sorts
and dice
of goodies,
towers.
dude. I'm super excited about that. Super excited about
I know.
that.
I love always getting up to use their products. So even though I'm not slated in to be on that podcast yet, I'm just so excited.
Yeah, no, I mean, even...
have
Yeah, we
the
might
stuff in
work
the
here,
store
but
to
that
mess
doesn't
with.
give us a leg up on anybody. We
Nope.
still got to come in and audition, just like everybody else.
We both got our time slots locked
I've already
in.
got my time slot. I got the first time slot as soon as I heard about it. So, looking forward to giving it a shot, seeing if I mesh well with what we're expecting. If not, hey, congratulations to everybody that does. I'm
Exactly.
looking forward to seeing what you got, and I'll definitely be here behind the scenes helping out as best I can.
We both will. That's a
So.
given.
All right, well, that's probably our time for this week. I think we covered a lot. I think we definitely covered a decent amount here. So look forward to next week's episode. We're going to be probably talking about Warhammer. A lot of stuff coming down the pipeline with
Yes. Probably a little bit of Lorcana as well.
Probably a little Lorcana, because I think we got preview season coming up pretty soon.
Yes.
And the release is right around the corner.
Yup.
So be looking forward to that. So again, this has been great. I'm really enjoying this, and I'm glad we've reached episode 2.
We're 2 episodes in. First one wasn't a fluke.
Nope, it wasn't a fluke, and it wasn't a flop either. Thank God. So.
Wiping some sweat off my brow with that one.
Yeah, I know, right? All right, well, I'm Nick the Red, and with me is Tyler, and we'll hope to see you in the store soon.
Have a great one.
Have a great one, guys.
Attention small business owners. Are you looking to amplify your reach and get your business in front of more customers? Deep Dive Games has an exciting opportunity for you. We're currently seeking local businesses in the St. Mary's, Georgia and Athens, Ohio areas to advertise on our 2 weekly podcasts. With 6 ad spaces available, you can showcase your brand to our engaged listeners and drive traffic to your business. Choose to pay per ad or save big by securing a year's worth of advertising in advance, locked in at the current rate. Ready to take the next step in promoting your business? Don't miss out. Contact us today at 912-439-3940 or shoot us an email at deepdivegamesllc@gmail.com. Let's work together to get the word out and grow your business.
This episode is brought to you by CM Design and Gifts. CM Design and Gifts is Camden County's premier destination for everything including embroidery, laser engraving, direct-to-film printing, trophies, signs, banners, and more. Locally owned and operated by a Marine Corps veteran and his family, the store is conveniently located behind the Brown Bag Liquor Store in Kingsland, Georgia. No job is too small or too large for this thriving company, eager to support our military community and residents. Contact them at info@cmdgifts.com or visit their website at www.cmdgifts.com.
This episode is brought to you by Game Over Video Games and More in Kingsland, Georgia. Are you looking for video games, classic consoles, or a fresh collection of new releases? Game Over Video Games and More in Kingsland, Georgia has it all. Whether you're a modern gamer or just want to relive your gaming nostalgia, they've got an impressive selection, great deals, and a friendly staff ready to help. Stop by and level up at Game Over Video Games and More. This episode is brought to you by Alien Treats. Ever wondered what it's like to have a milkshake that's out of this world? Welcome to Alien Treats, Kingsland's one-of-a-kind alien-themed ice cream and candy shop. Whether you're craving a cosmic milkshake, want to cruise our huge selection of freeze-dried candy, or just chill in their free arcade, they've got something for the whole family. Have a birthday party or event coming up? They have a new party room you can rent by the hour that's perfect to make every special occasion memorable. So, if you're looking for a fun, family-friendly experience that's anything but ordinary, beam yourselves over to Alien Treats in Kingsland, Georgia. Follow them on Facebook for the latest specials and events, and remember, at Alien Treats, every bite is an adventure. Alien Treats, where our treats are out of this world.